National Guard of Ukraine is a military formation with law enforcement functions. It is a part of the Ministry of Interior of Ukraine. The uniqueness of this structure is that NGU units are capable of performing combat missions in peacetime, in times of crisis and during martial law. At the same time, the NGU works both independently and in cooperation with law enforcement agencies, the armed forces and other organizations of the Ukrainian security and defense sector.
During the martial law, the war period, and the Joint Forces operation, NGU units are partially subordinated to the Ministry of Defense.
In such circumstances, the National Guard and Armed Forces units jointly perform duties of eliminating the armed conflict. The National Guard's command and control system is organized on territorial basis with the main headquarters and overall command. The 5 territorial commands are located in the following areas of responsibility: north in Kiev, south in Odessa, west in Lviv, east in Kharkiv, and center in Dnipro. Also, there are units in the National Guard of Ukraine which are directly subordinated to the NGU main headquarters. They ensure the protection of key state facilities and nuclear power plants, the protection of diplomatic representatives' offices, consular establishments of foreign states, and international organizations in Ukraine. Additionally, the NGU National Academy, training centers, support bases, medical rehabilitation centers, and the aviation base are subordinate to the main headquarters. The number of NGU personnel does not exceed 60,000 people. There are approximately 32% dedicated to command and control and logistics units, 23% to operational units, 16% to public order protection units, 10% to convoy units, 9% to units that protect key infrastructure facilities, 6% to the educational establishments and centers, 2% to the units which protect diplomatic representatives' offices, consular establishments of foreign states and international organizations in Ukraine, 1.5% to special operations units, and 1% to aviation units. Previously, the National Guard already existed in Ukraine from 1991 to 2000. At that time, one of the main tasks was to protect the constitutional order of the state and the integrity of its territories. In the case of martial law, additional units were formed to protect and defend key infrastructure facilities. However, this time, the newly created Guard was called to eliminate more real threats, and it was formed under combat conditions. On March 13, 2014, when the situation in the east of Ukraine was critical, the Verkhovna Rada voted in favor of the relevant law. New functions were identified for the formation. Since then, servicemen have been performing duties to stop armed conflicts and other illegal activities at the state border. Guardsmen prevent the massive crossing of the state border from the territory of neighboring countries. They are involved in special operations to neutralize armed criminals, illegal militarized or armed groups, as well as in counterterrorism activities. On February 20, 2014, regular units of the Russian armed forces illegally crossed the Ukrainian state border and began annexation of the Crimean Peninsula. Pro-Russian forces attacked local authorities and administrative buildings under the cover of so-called peaceful mass actions in the southeastern regions. Ukraine faced a real threat of losing its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Thus, there was a need to create a formation of high operational readiness, which would counteract the spread of separatism in Ukraine and preserve the territorial integrity of the state. The National Guard of Ukraine has become such a force. Volunteers and patriotic activists of the Revolution of Dignity also joined the National Guard of Ukraine. On March 15, 2014, about 500 Maidan self-defense volunteers went to the training center near Kiev. In a short time, they passed basic military training, learned to fire machine guns, sniper rifles, and heavy machine guns.
The personnel of the battalions, which were formed in March 2014, lacked certain skills. But those people were quite motivated to defend Ukraine's sovereignty. This allowed the armed forces to move up reserves, undergo further training, and also to enter an active phase of the anti-terrorist operation.
In early April 2014, armed pro-Russian fighters began to capture the first cities in eastern Ukraine. Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and Druskivka. In Donetsk and Luhansk, they proclaimed proto-state entities. On April 13, 2014, the anti-terrorist operation began. National Guard units were among the first to defend the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Guardsmen equipped with light weapons, unarmored vehicles, and no special equipment were deployed to the east of Ukraine, where they faced a well-armed enemy who used heavy equipment, artillery, and sniper systems. The liberation of the Kharkiv Regional State Administration on April 8, 2014 became an example for the successful confrontation of the manifestations of separatism. The day before, the building was seized by pro-Russian forces under the guise of peaceful mass actions.
Fighters got in through windows. They began to take control of the entire building. Being already inside, they started firing. Then the Special Operation Unit Jaguar has arrived, and despite the fatigue of staff after a long road, they were ready to assault the building.
The administration building was liberated without firing a single shot due to the rapid special operation response by the Kalinivsky Regiment.
The whole assault took 17 minutes. Under the leadership of Stepan Poltorak, the MGU Operational Regiment from Kalinivka conducted this operation. They detained 74 militants.
Thus, the NGU military prevented the creation of another pseudo-republic. Since the beginning of the ATO, the National Guard units have been actively fighting Russian mercenaries in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Thanks to their dedication and faith in the independent Ukraine, Guardsmen kept the situation in Donbass under control. They bought time that enabled the units of the armed forces of Ukraine to mobilize and increase their capabilities to fully defend Ukraine. The Battle of Semenivka village, which is on the outskirts of Sloviansk, became one of the first successful military operations of the National Guard troops. On May 5, personnel of the Kalinivsky Regiment, special operations units of the Northern, Southern, Western Territorial Commands, and Kiev Brigade of the Protection of Diplomatic Missions and Consular Offices, along with the units of the Security Service of Ukraine, engaged the enemy. The enemy was led by pro-Russian Igor Girkin. The confrontation lasted about 2 hours. Due to the successful operation of the NGU personnel, the fighters suffered heavy losses and withdrew. The Ukrainian flag went up at the checkpoint near Semenivka. Unfortunately, 3 Ukrainian defenders were killed at that time. Among them, NGU representative NCO Viktor Dolinsky. Another special date in the history of the National Guard is the 13th of June, 2014, the day of the Mariupol liberation. On that day, the city has been under the control of illegal armed groups for more than a month. At that time, the National Guard units and the Ministry of Internal Affairs Special Operation Forces participated in the liberation operation. During the clearing operation in Mariupol, the separatists' key defensive posts and equipment were destroyed, and the government control of all the seized structures was restored. Subsequently, servicemen of the National Guard liberated Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Popasna, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, and other cities and settlements from pro-Russian fighters. Also, they participated in the battles for Ilovaisk and Debaltseve. Since 2015, the Ukrainian armed forces have replaced National Guard units along the defensive contact line in the anti-terrorist operation area. In 2019, NGU units returned to the front and assumed responsibility for areas of operations. The Battalion Tactical Group of the separate Special Operations Detachment Azov and servicemen of the Hostomel Operational Brigade demonstrated that the NGU units are capable not only of holding the defensive line, but of actively repelling the enemy forces. Nowadays, about 5,000 National Guard servicemen continue to carry out combat missions in the Joint Forces Operation Area. They perform tasks on fixed and mobile checkpoints, protect key infrastructure facilities, and conduct isolation and restrictive measures.
Батальйонна тактична група на одному із напрямків.
NGU Battalion Tactical Group, jointly with the Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, performs tasks at the front line. In addition, the NGU personnel is involved in counter-sabotage and counter-sniper activities. They serve at checkpoints to isolate areas. The personnel fights against illegal armed groups in the designated area. As of today,
over 200 NGU servicemen were killed during combat action in the east of Ukraine.
887 отримали бойові поранення.
888 soldiers were wounded in battles. As of today, 14 people are considered missing. In 12 towns since 2014, memorials, boards, obelisks have been installed to commemorate the memory of fallen servicemen. 171 plaques have been opened all over Ukraine. 47 streets have been renamed. 7 secondary schools are named after our servicemen who have died while protecting the territorial integrity and independence of our state.
For their courage and heroism, hundreds of NGU personnel were honored with departmental and state awards. 4 of them were posthumously awarded the title of Hero of Ukraine. Performing law enforcement functions throughout the Ukraine is equally important. To make citizens feel safe, our servicemen perform their duties in cities and towns every day. More than 3,500 personnel are involved in daily patrolling. Throughout the National Guard's existence, its servicemen have ensured public order at nearly 20,000 mass events, including international ones. The protection of public order is a critical and dangerous task. On August 31, 2015, several hundred protesters from one of the political forces held a mass event in Kiev, near the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Radically minded activists wanted to break into the parliament. National Guard and National Police troops tried to push them away. Protesters threw firecrackers and smoke bombs. The air stirred with a loud explosion. They had thrown a grenade. 4 NGU servicemen were killed from the blast. Another 65 were also injured. Shortly after the tragic events, the government erected a memorial plaque on the building of the Verkhovna Rada. On the 1st of March 2020, the tradition of the NGU Honor Guard duties was launched. On weekends and holidays, the NGU servicemen are assigned to stand on sentry duty alongside the building of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. This is the way to honor our national symbols and the memory of our fallen servicemen. Since 2014, the National Guard has maintained law and order by patrolling jointly with police officers. As a result, more than 12,000 people were arrested on suspicion of criminal offenses and more than 90,000 of administrative offenses. It has confiscated 243 firearms, 152 grenades, and 12 kilograms of explosives from detainees. This highly effective duty performance of the NGU personnel is the result of constant exchange of experience with similar law enforcement structures in Europe and the world. In 2017, the NGU received the status of the full member of the International Association of Gendarmerie and Police in the status of the military institution FIEP. This was made possible by the adaptation of the national legislation to the democratic norms and standards of the leading countries of the world.
Національна гвардія подала заявку в лютому
The National Guard applied in February 2015. After that, we had several FIEP commissions to assess the compliance of the National Guard with the FIEP statutes. In this context, both combat and special training programs have been modified. In 2017, at the FIEP summit, they voted in favor of accepting the National Guard of Ukraine into the organization.
Considering the experience and recommendations of international partners, a mountain patrol company was formed in the National Guard of Ukraine. Its main function is to protect public order in the mountainous area. Also, its servicemen conduct search and rescue tasks in remote mountainous regions of the state. The National Guard also has units for escorting, extradition and protection of detainees. NGU servicemen escort detainees and prisoners to penitentiary institutions and maintain public order in courtrooms. In order to protect diplomatic representative offices and consular establishments of foreign states, the National Guard has a separate brigade located in Kyiv. There are also special units in Lviv, Kharkiv and Odessa. Therefore, more than 100 diplomatic and consular establishments are protected all over the country. Experience in the anti-terrorist operation zone has forced us to adapt and utilize heavy weapons and military vehicles. Operational units were formed and reinforced by tank, artillery, engineering, anti-tank and air defense units. These give the NGU opportunity to perform assigned missions effectively. Special purpose units received powerful sniper systems, modern military vehicles, communications and personal protective equipment. The Rapid Reaction Brigade was formed in Hostomel. Its structures and command system were built in the accordance with NATO standards. On a rotational basis, they perform missions in the JFO zone. The experience of our international partners has helped us to introduce high-quality changes in the National Guard of Ukraine. In particular, our training system was improved. Today, it is clearly divided into individual and collective. A multi-level system of non-commissioned officers was also introduced, with sergeant positions from platoon level up to staff level introduced to the National Guard. A school of instructors, snipers, a chaplain service, a modern psychological support unit, a civil military cooperation unit were also formed. Our CIMIC unit helps civilians in solving livelihoods issues in the area of conflict, as well as in developing cooperation with local authorities and NGOs. The National Guard units have received modern armored vehicles and armaments. Observation and fire control devices were also purchased. The National Guard of Ukraine has also received various special vehicles. In order to improve personnel service conditions, our units were equipped with canteen buses, field utility service facilities, autonomous mobile kitchens, water and fuel trailers. The NGU aviation fleet has also changed significantly. The NGU aviation units received AN-26 and AN-72 aircrafts, Mi-8 and Mi-2 helicopters. The UAV squadron was formed. Within development of the MIA Aviation Security and Civil Protection United System, the National Guard received French helicopters, Eurocopter H-225 Super Puma. At the same time, engineering aviation service personnel underwent helicopter maintenance training courses on the basis of Airbus helicopters and Safran companies. NGU pilots are trained to operate such helicopters at the military unit 2269. The main mission of Airbus helicopters in the National Guard are to transport personnel and vehicles into the area of special operations and multi-purpose use during emergencies. Military personnel systematically receive service apartments. Currently, the Service Housing Fund is being actively developed. It solves the social problems of the military and raises the prestige of the National Guard of Ukraine. The National Guard has also introduced a new uniform. For units of public order, diplomatic representatives protection, it is blue. For other military units, olive color. The personnel nutrition system has also been improved. In stationary military canteens, servicemen can choose what meal to eat. The main value of the National Guard is the people whose professionalism not only depends on the lives of the citizens, but also on the security of the state. Therefore, a multi-level training system was created to improve servicemen professional skills. Command and control officers of tactical and operational tactical levels are graduated from the NGU National Academy. There are optional tactical, command staff, logistics, humanities, and Kiev faculties. This educational institution is located in Kharkiv. Also, the academy has a separate faculty in Kiev. In order to be compatible with similar structures in Europe and the world, much attention is paid to the study of foreign languages. In Kharkiv, they set up a language center, and in Kiev, a language department. Intensive foreign language courses for officers and NCOs have been launched. Teachers are constantly improving their skills both in Ukraine and abroad. At the training center in Zolochiv, Lviv region, they train privates and NCOs in different specialties. The center also provides training for instructors.
We had a goal to create a new NCO Corps. We wanted the sergeants to be a reliable assistant to the officer and a good commander for the subordinates. National Guard made organizational changes in all military units, as well as in companies, platoons, battalions, brigades, and territorial commands. Based on this, we introduced new NCO positions.
In order to improve the collective training of units in 2017, an international interagency multidisciplinary center for the preparation of the NGU units was created in the Kiev region. It includes centers for operational, public safety, special operations, and psychological rehabilitation center. There are more than 200 instructor positions in the center. On its territory, guardsmen conduct joint trainings with representatives of other law enforcement agencies of Ukraine. Today, the center is essential for joint trainings. With the support of the US Armed Forces, a project for its further development has been launched. One of the priority areas for the National Guard's activities is international cooperation.
Currently, the United States of America has invested more than $81 million in international technical assistance, high-tech and communication equipment, night vision devices, engineering, and medical supplies have been delivered to Ukraine.
In May 2018, the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, the Ministry of National Defense of Canada, and the Armed Forces of Canada signed a technical agreement on conducting military training activities with the National Guard. After that, cooperation with the Joint Task Force of the Canadian Armed Forces in Ukraine, Operation Unifier, began. The training is conducted with battalion staffs, NCOs, and engineers. Additionally, the Canadian Armed Forces provides language courses for NGU personnel. The National Guard actively cooperate with the international partners in developing law enforcement capabilities. 4 cross-border projects with the Gendarmerie of Romania are being implemented. Also, we are starting the cooperation with the National Republican Guard of Portugal. The National Guard implements NATO standards. Its units each year participate in multinational military exercises, like Exercise Rapid Trident and Exercise Sea Breeze. Together with the representatives of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Guardsmen are involved in the activities of the Multinational Joint Committee. It includes members of the US, Canada, UK, Lithuania, Poland, Sweden, and Denmark. The National Guard Subcommittee functions within the Multinational Joint Committee. Our partner on the subcommittee is the California National Guard. The Fearless Guardian was conducted as a result of the cooperation within committee under the USAI assistance. It cost about 1.5 billion hryvnias. In 2020, the National Guard of Ukraine celebrates its 6th anniversary. During this time, it has overcome a significant path of formation and development. Today, mobile military formations are a powerful tool for countering modern challenges and threats, especially hybrids. Experience shows that such structures make possible strengthening the defense of the state. The National Guard of Ukraine is guided by the principles of transparency and openness. More than 60% of the citizens trust the National Guard of Ukraine, according to independent social surveys by the Razumkov Sociological Service Center in 2019. With its considerable experience, professional warriors, and support from the population, the National Guard is ready to ensure the peace and security of the state and its citizens.